What's good, YouTube? Welcome to Pros Only TV. You're here with myself, Roland. Now, before we begin, I need everybody to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share this video with a friend when you're done. Now, let's get into it. So, are Manchester United the problem? Now, the reason I'm asking this question is because we've seen in Euro 2020, Paul Pogba, man of the match, put in a very good performance for France. In the Copa America, Fred putting up a good performance for Brazil. Lindelof getting man of the match in Sweden's match in Euro 2020. Several players that have left United over the last few years actually performing very well for their clubs. And even the players at our club, when they go on international duty, they seem to be a lot better in several different ways when you leave United. Now, I'm going to break everything down. But to begin with, obviously, this is the Free the Realness campaign, man. Look, for me, I'm free in the realness, man. I'm just going to just speak my mind, man. I'm going to talk the truth. Because everybody's got their little agendas and, I like this player, I like that player. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to tell you what it is straight up. And you got to have to take it and listen. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, let's get into it, man. So, when we're looking at the players that have left Man United over the last few years, right? Let me just break them down. Like, you got Memphis Depay. Like, he's gone to Lyon. He's become an integral part of that team. He's captained their side, and through his performances for the club over the last few years, he's earned his move to Barcelona, or he's earning his move to Barcelona. Now, what does that say about Manchester United? Yes, you could talk about he came to the club and he was fairly young. He had a manager who brought him in. And I don't know if he really trusted him a lot. And, the conditions weren't right. He didn't have the right type of players around him. And, he didn't end up, doing anything for the club. And then eventually got shipped out by Jose. Cool. But it still doesn't change the fact that if we had given him the time to develop, he probably would have been the same player that he is right now. So, I mean, you've got that. Now, Daley Blind, somebody who left the club way too early, who probably would have been needed in our team right now if we're looking for a new centre-half, we're looking for a defensive midfielder or a deep-line playmaker. He would have been perfect for the role. He's left the club, went back to Ajax, where it all started for him. He's gone on to be a very experienced and versatile player for that side. They've gone to Champions League semi-final. They've won another Dutch league as well. So, I mean, for him to have left the club, he left way too early, way ahead of when he should have. He should have been one of the staples within our team right now, and because he's just such a technically gifted footballer. So, I mean, you've got Daley Blind now, a big one, Lukaku. Lukaku scored a brace for Belgium in Euro 2020, right? And for me, I just feel like he left the club way too early. Like, people were talking about his first touch, talking about how he looks like he's playing in Timberland boots and this, that, and the other. But once again, like, some of those little things you can really get out of players in terms of coaching if you can really focus in on it. He's shown that since playing under Conte, right, for Inter. He's won a Serie A title finally. And that's his first major title he's won in his career. He became the league MVP at Inter as well. And he's the proven goal scorer that our club will be probably looking to target after Cavani leaves. Probably, obviously, we're seeing ourselves being linked with Haaland and with Harry Kane this summer, and probably next summer if things happen that way. But then he's the guy that was already at your club who's got a proven goal scoring record already. You brought him to the club for a decent fee of 70 million or whatever it was, and then you let him go after a couple of seasons. For what reason? Because the manager said, he doesn't fit my style. But then you've brought in two strikers in Ugalo and now Cavani that you want. And I don't understand it. Of course, we know Greenwood is going to come into that role eventually, but he's going to have to play his way in there, to be honest, because currently the manager's utilising him on the right-hand side. And I think that probably if the Jadon Sancho deal happens, then he becomes now the backup striker, or he might be the first choice. You never know what Ollie's thinking. But that's what it is. Now, moving on to Sanchez. Now, I know this one's a controversial one, right? Sanchez came to the club, a lot of fanfare. We've taken Arsenal's best player, the pianos and all of this nonsense, right? And then it just didn't work out for him. So apparently he was made into a virus in the media and around the club. And then his wages being a problem. But obviously we knew what we was offering him when he joined the club. So there should be no confusion. You knew that if you're bringing in a player of that caliber at that time, he's going to become one of the highest earners in the club. So nobody should have been making excuses about, he's one of the highest earners and he's disrupting everybody. No, it's got nothing to do with that. He had a few injuries, loss of form. Management didn't help. Like it just kind of ended up being what it was. And when he had a chance to probably integrate himself into the side, he decided he wanted to dip. Went to Inter, won himself a league title. What can you say? Now we're looking at Matteo Darmian. Now I didn't really like Darmian. I feel like the first 3 or 4 games he played for Man United, yeah, he actually played well. I was like, oh, okay, this is like finally a Gary Neville replacement, right? And then I remember a game that we played away against Swansea. I think it was the fifth league game of the season, Van Gaal's second season, and he got absolutely shackled by whomever. Like, I don't know what winger was on him, probably Wayne Routledge. I don't know who it was, yeah. And like, you just saw him, and you just say to yourself, this league ain't for you. And you know what? You know, when you come to think about it, right? Italians don't really leave Italy. They really stay in Italy and play in Italy. They don't really venture out into any other leagues. Him coming there was a big step for him. And, you know, when he came there, you know, it's just mad. Like, I'm just looking at it and I'm just saying to myself, like, it probably wasn't a great fit for him. And you could see from that game where he got shackled at Swansea, it's not for him. And, you know, he was part of our team for for quite some time, probably 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 seasons. I think he was at the club for about 4 seasons, you know. And I feel like, you know, he's shown for the Italian side and for Inter that he's better in a back three or back five, and he'd be one of the wing backs, you know, rather than being in the back four. I feel like he's very uncomfortable in the back four. He can play it, but it's not really his strength or strong suit. So he's probably better in a back five, right? And, you know, he's part of that Inter team that won another league, a league title, a Serie A title, integral part of Conte's system, because Conte likes to utilize his wing backs. So, you know, it's all about how you utilize some of these players as well. It's not always that, you know, because certain players in our current side, they're probably better suited to playing a different formation that the coaching staff or manager doesn't want to do. But we'll get into that more. We'll get into more of that later. Ashley Young. Now, everybody had their issues with Ashley Young. Everybody was trying to slander him and all that. Stop the nonsense, man. He was part of sides that won Premier League titles, do you know what I'm saying, and won other trophies, do you know what I mean? He was part of the sides, some of Fergie's later years towards the end. Like, you can't even deny that. Like, I think he won maybe 2 or 3 Premier League titles. So, you know, he has some medals in his locker. Like, he has an FA Cup in his locker. I'm sure he had a League Cup in his locker. But, yeah, he was a great servant to the club. Obviously, when he came in, there wasn't really much expected of him. Like, he's coming into a side full of legends, and, like, you know, not really part. He was just being added to another as another element to the side. Do you know what I mean? Just something different. A winger, traditional winger that Man United usually play with, and what Fergie kind of likes. He brought him. Fergie really got the best out of him. You know, this is a player that started off at Watford, went to Villa, up another level. You know, performed to a point where he attracted the interest of Fergie. He brings him to Man United. He comes in and he integrates himself into the team. Do you know what I mean? So Fergie got the best out of him. Towards the end of his career, you know, he was being played out of position. Let's be honest. He was being played as a fullback. He's not a fullback. He's not a defensive-minded player at all. And, you know, he was being asked to play in that position. We could talk about how Antonio Valencia, the same, had to do that and was basically accommodated into the side by playing at fullback. So we were playing with natural wingers as fullbacks for several years, and nobody said anything. But okay, it's what it is, isn't it? Now, he's gone on to win a Serie A title with Inter this season. He's been a good squad player for Inter with his experience this season. Obviously, Hakimi and Darmian really occupying the flanks for them at fullback, and he's just been as like a guy to rotate in there, you know, because he's getting older now. So, but he's been a good experience for that. It's been good experience for that squad as well, and for those players in those positions, man. So you can't even deny that, and the fact that he's gone on and left the club after he was deemed finished by some United supporters. He's gone on and won a league title. It's mad. Now, Angel Gomez. Now, he left the club on a free. You know, somebody who wasn't promised any game time but was being forced to say, sign a new contract, or we're going to let you, or we're not going to let you play. He's moved on from the club, went to Lille, and then went on loan to Boa Vista in Portugal. You know, he's putting in a lot of good performances, assists, and some goals. I don't know his stats for the past season, but you can tell that he's progressed as a player. From what we've been seeing, he's going to go back to Lille, who just became champions, and he will now have a chance to fight his way into that team, and I'm sure he'll get into that team. And in a few years' time, yeah, like, because of his promise that he's shown over his loan, we're going to be going back, we're going to be looking at it with regret, saying, like, we should never have let him go. And I just think to myself, like, it's just a bit mad, like, we let somebody of that type of talent go for no reason, but it is what it is. Now, I'm going to go back into the archives here. Yeah, we're talking about Wilfried Zaha. Now, mind you, when he came to the club, when Fergie signed him, he was probably one of England's highly rated talents, right? And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Some reports said he was homesick. If you listen to Patrice Evra, he was doing a bit of business with David Moyes' wife. I don't know. I ain't gonna hold you, but it still doesn't deny that he had very good talent, that Fergie spotted it and tried to bring it to the club before he left, thinking that he could be integrated into the team and really perform at a high level. Now, he went back to, via Cardiff, he went back to Palace, and he's been performing especially in the early part, he was really performing to a high level. And then it got to a point where he said, I want to leave. Palace decided to slap a £80 million price tag on him, and then, no interest. People weren't willing to pay it. And then he signed a new deal and he kind of put himself in that situation, and now he's kind of messed himself up. He's now reaching 29, 30. So, I mean, it is what it is. But he's somebody that had promise, and I just wanted to mention him because I'm like, imagine if he was still in our side right now. We were screaming for a right winger. He could have been that right winger. But, what do you know? Now, moving on to some of the players in our current setup that, when they play for United, it's a bit, I'm not sure, some good performances, some bad, but then when they go on international duty, they look amazing, right? So some examples, obviously, Pogba, it's clear with the France situation, right? Fred for Brazil, Lindelof when he goes to Sweden duty, Bruno, now, yes, you're saying Bruno, but Bruno's been scoring goals and getting assists, the GA, the stats is amazing. But when he plays for United, he doesn't seem to have a defined position on the pitch. He's supposed to be playing number 10, but he's playing in the 9 role. You look at his touch maps on average over the last season, he's always in the box or near enough around the box. Where you would think that maybe he'll have a little bit more of a withdrawn role right behind that striker, the 9. And, he kind of works within that zone, and he doesn't really seem to do that. When he plays for Portugal, he's not playing as a 10, he's playing as an 8. And you can see the difference in his play. He's not being utilised as the main focal point in attack. He's got a number of attackers around him that he works with in cohesion in order to create chances for the forwards or for himself. So, I mean, you're looking at that and you're saying, Bruno. So that's why I put Bruno in there. Dalot as well. Now, Dalot hasn't, I think he's made his debut for the Portuguese national team. He's in the squad for Euro 2020. But in the under-21 team, you're seeing him showcase his talent. You've seen him out on loan at AC Milan over the past season. He's done very well. And he's going to come back into the Man United side with some experience in another league and, being a more or less first choice player in the side. I think he was rotating a lot. But, he's been able to have that experience, and he's going to come back with no injuries and coming back with experience on his belt, and that's only good. And he obviously showed his talent outside. Now, people are trying to say that a lot of these players in our side, they need to try harder. I saw Roy Keane's comments yesterday about Paul Pogba, praising him, and they always have to put in that but he needs to do more. And I'm thinking to myself, he needs to put more effort. And people always slandering Pogba, like you see it all over football Twitter. You see it from the pundits. It's people calling him Jogbar and all of this nonsense, right? And you're saying to yourself, when he plays for France, he's got Kante behind him and he's got another midfielder. He's got Mbappe in front of him. He's got Griezmann in front of him. But who does he have when he plays for Man United? In that midfield where you're telling him to play, you're playing in that pivot. He's got McTominay, who's trash. I don't care what people say. You might like him because he's got the energy, but the only reason why we're seeing this guy is because we had a lot of injuries and Jose promoted him because he was tall, physical. Nothing else. He doesn't offer anything else. Hides in games. People don't see it. He hides in games at times. Of course, Europa League final, he played well, and I'll give him his credit for that. But when we need him, most of the times he's not there. But it is what it is. And then you've got Fred, who once again is being asked to play in a position that is not that's not his natural position. He's not a sitting midfielder. He's actually somebody that he's a box to box. He gets involved in the plays, high energy, pressing, interceptions, releasing the ball quickly over to the people that really can do the damage. But in the United system, if he plays in that pivot, he's asked to sit and then not really get involved in anything, and that doesn't suit his game. Now, people have said Fred is not good enough for a £50 million player, but can you consider that if he was in that Manchester City midfield, you can actually see what he would bring to that side because of the way they play with those quick decisive passes, in and around the midfield, the triangles. You can see what Fred can offer in that side. He should be offering it in this Man United side, and it's you need to find a formation or some tactics that's gonna accommodate all the players that you have in your side. But I'm gonna move on to that later. Now, they said Lindelof is not starting quality. I feel like when he was at Benfica, he was playing in a back three. So he's obviously going to be a lot more comfortable in a back three. Probably as the player that steps out and starts the attacks, because he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's very good with the ball at his feet. He's probably better than Maguire. Now, they said he's not starting quality. And I feel like when he's in a two, he's isolated. And we saw this very early on when he came to Man United. we'd go away at certain places, and certain teams would target Lindelof because they knew he was the weaker one, especially in the air. So when we're seeing that now, we're saying to yourself, okay, like, you're saying he's not starting quality, but you're not playing to his strengths. His strengths is being on the ball, it's being somebody that can step out and pass into midfield. Like, he's not a physical guy. We know he's not a physical guy, so we shouldn't be setting him up into situations where he's going to have to be physical. But that's, once again, the problem with coaching. We're going to move on to that very soon. But they've also said that Bruno is not disciplined. Surely that's on to the coaches. Surely that's on to management to say, hey, withdraw, stay in your zone. But they don't do that. Like, they don't tell him that. They just let him do what he wants. So yes, you're gonna have the benefits of that. He's gonna score goals. He's gonna make assists. But at the same time, like, when we need him to do something in the game, he might not be nowhere to be found. So, there's that. Now, that's another coaching issue, but this is what people are saying about these players. They said there's been reports that Dalot has a bad attitude, and I'm thinking to myself, he just looks like a nice kid. What kind of issues will he have? Like, so, I mean, I'm not too sure about that either. Like, it's just a very interesting thing that just happens. A player doesn't suit somebody, so all of a sudden he's got a bad attitude. That doesn't make sense. So then, like, when we think about this, whose fault is it? Because people are saying it's the players. People are saying it's the managers. Is it the board? Is it the tactics? Is it the coaching staff? Like, whose fault is it? Let's see. Right, so let me go through. I've already gone through the players, but let's go through the managers, right? Is it the managers that have come to the club, right? So let's break it down. David Moyes, for example, right? He came into the club just after Fergie. It's a big job. Like, it's something you can't, like, the best, you can't even match it. And he hasn't even got a CV to match up to his. Like, the club would have been better suited bringing in, like, a Carlo Ancelotti, a Klopp, Mourinho at that time, because they had the ability to probably manage egos. They've won stuff. So, you're going to come into a team full of veterans and they'll automatically have your respect. And you probably get another season out of them. You probably squeeze another season out of them to probably challenge for that title, probably win it. Didn't happen. Chose David Moyes. It is what it is. Now, he didn't get a chance to revamp the squad that he had. It was an aging squad. And then after that, he's been made out to be a shit manager, right? But look what he did at West Ham. He's got them, what was it, 6th place? Europa League. Apparently a shit manager. I don't know if the fans not being at the London Stadium helped, but it is what it is. Moving on to Van Gaal. So he had a decent squad, right? And he got them to play his style of football that he wanted to, his philosophy that he wanted to implement on the side, right? But then when he left, he complained at the end of his reign, right, that he didn't actually get the first choice players that he wanted, and that leads to the board where when they were offering him second choice and third choice players to the players he wanted. I'm sure he didn't want Schweinsteiger, but he got him. I'm sure he didn't want Di Maria, but he got him. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he probably didn't even want Falcao, but he got him. And then you're saying to yourself, well, why are we giving players to managers that don't want them? Then be shocked why the players are leaving or why the players are not performing. It is what it is. Now, Jose won 2 trophies with a poor squad. Yeah? Got second place in his second season. You could actually see what he was trying to do. And this is why I'm saying free the realness. Because people are not deep in it. Like, Mourinho wasn't coming to their club to destroy. He was trying to do the best of what he had and try to add to it, right? So let me give you an example, right? You bring in a Lukaku, right? He's a striker. He's not a target man per se, but a bit of coaching, he could probably turn into that for United, right? But he's got pace. He's strong, powerful, and he can get his head on the ball, right? He's somebody that you need to feed, right, in order for him to score goals. He shouldn't be trying to fashion chances for himself. So what does Mourinho think? Okay, in that summer, he buys Lukaku, Lindelof, Matic, right? Okay, Matic, and yeah, I know. But he also has a 4th target, Ivan Perisic. Everybody said, oh, don't bring him in. He's too old. Oh, he's not good enough. But deep it, a guy who can play off the left flank and the right flank, so it's versatile, multifunctional players, I love them, can cross a ball. In our current setup at that time, who could cross the ball in that side? Mata was playing out wide. You've got Rashford and Martial, who we now know are inverted inverted forwards, right? They don't go on the outside. They're trying to cut inside and shoot, right? If they play out on the flanks. So you're bringing in a player who naturally will try and go past the player on the outside and cross the ball into the striker, right? So having Lukaku there and having a Perisic there who could play on either side to cross the ball over to Lukaku to score goals seemed like perfect sense for me. People have said, oh, he didn't trust young players. He looked at what his options were at that time. That was the option. The club said, we're not spending 40 million on a 27-year-old. So what do you want him to do? So, so when I was just on that, right? So he was blocked from making certain signings, right? So the Perisic one I've just mentioned. Maguire was blocked because he cost 70 million. The following season, we paid 80 million. So he knew he had deficiencies at centre-half. The centre-half that he wanted, he didn't get. And then now people are complaining about Lindelof. That was who he bought him on the recommendation of some scouts. As far as I'm concerned, Lindelof still hasn't adapted to the physical side of the Premier League game. He's saying, okay, maybe I can't trust the two centre-halves that I've brought in. I've made a mistake, just like Pep has done. Let me rectify it by bringing in somebody who I can trust. Maguire was the target. Didn't get him. Following season, Maguire arrives. He identified him. So free the realness. Jose was telling us that Maguire was the guy that he wanted, and they didn't give him the money. And then we went and spent the money anyway. Stupid. But it is what it is. Now, I'm thinking about this Pogba signing. Now, I've got a theory about the Pogba signing. Was Pogba actually a signing for Mourinho? Was that signing for the club? Because I feel like the club only signed Pogba because it was a commercial decision. I feel like Pogba at the time, I don't think he was worth that 89 million. I think he was worth about 50 at the time. And then, Ed Woodward tried to stick his nose into the negotiations because I feel like Pogba was off to Real Madrid to go and join Zidane at the time. He decided to join and said, Ed Woodward backed out a PowerPoint presentation and then said to Mino Raiola and Pogba that we're going to make you Adidas #1 star. At the time, it was Messi. Now it's Pogba, right? Pogba's also, he's made money at United from a commercial standpoint. He's got a lot of endorsements since being at United. And then obviously Mino Raiola got a nice cut to the deal as well. So it just made financial sense for the two of them. Like for Pogba, he's got enough money for the rest of his life now, from being at Man United. He's become Adidas #1 Premier star. He's Pepsi's Premier star, all from being at Manchester United. Was he really a signing for the functionality of the team at the time? Was he a signing of the manager? I don't think so. But it is what it is. Now, moving on to Oli. The best squad best squad of players that Manchester United in years, right? Ollie's got, he's at the reins of it, right? And he's probably not getting the best out of the product right now, man. He's not getting the best out of the squad right now. Now, is he getting blocked from making signings? Obviously, the Sancho signing from last season, he got blocked. Not because the club said we can't get him. They were going for him and we messed up the negotiations. You're talking about Grealish. There was a block there, and I believe that Grealish wasn't able to be attainable because we were waiting for Villa to get relegated. They didn't, so he was going to cost a lot more. So they went for Donny van de Beek. Even though I like Donny van de Beek, I feel like if his first choice is Grealish, you go all out. But that's up to them. Bellingham. Now Bellingham took a tour around Carrington. The big guns came out for him. Sir Alex. Even I swear they said Eric Cantona was there. But anyway. And he ended up going to Dortmund, which is good for his career because I feel like he's going to develop at Dortmund. And then we're probably going to try and go in for him in 2 years' time. So we'll see what happens there. And then Haaland, I know him. I text him all the time. Ollie says I text him all the time. And then he ends up going to Dortmund himself. Once again, a good step for his career. He can develop. But that he's under Mino Raiola. Mino Raiola is going to go where he can get the most money. So we'll see what happens. He might go to Chelsea because they might offer him the most money if they don't want to get bullied by Mino Raiola. But let's see. Are the tactics good enough, right? Could we fare in a better formation? I feel like this team is suited more to maybe a 5 at the back or a 4-3-3. But, the management are adamant that we play that 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot. So you're not really going to get the best out of your players. We're seeing Pogba getting shifted out right, shifted out left. You know what I mean? Shifted is in the 10. When if you play a 4-3-3, you get one person sitting and we hope to get that signing, to get that person to sit and do the dirty work while we let Bruno and Pogba do their stuff going forward, we'd have an amazing team. But And that's what Oli was doing in the beginning. We didn't have Bruno at the time, but Pogba was sauntering forward, getting involved in the attack, and he became top scorer and top assister that season for the rest of that and towards the end of that season. So I mean, you got that too. Now, have the board been blocking United's progress in favour for commercial success? Absolutely. Like, you know, some of the signings that we've made have been commercially focused. Obviously, the Pogba deal. You saw the stuff he did with Stormzy and Adidas on that day. That's commercially focused. The Sanchez deal. You saw him playing the pianos. Like, that's what's all that about, man? Then you've got the Cavani deal. You know, to broaden our reach in South America. Di Maria, although he might not be the most commercially viable, he was one of Real Madrid's best players that season. Probably in the last few seasons before he made his move, he was probably one of Real Madrid's best players. You know, the Falcao deal. You know, Falcao. You know, he's got the long wavy, the long straight curly or whatever hair, man. You know, Colombian. All this, like, it was all for commercials, man. We already knew the guy wasn't fit. But you know what it is, man. Like, you know, they were vetoing signings and stuff like that just because they because of the cost instead of the functionality of the team. Are we the problem? And I feel like Manchester United are the problem, right? That's me, man. I mean, I've given my opinion on this. I know we're the problem. We need to fix the problem. This has been a top-down view. Pros Only TV. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.